We're all waiting for Planet Coaster 2, right? That's no secret.
No.
The original Planet Coaster was released in 2016 and it received multiple updates over 3 years and then just stopped. Why? Well, it's due in part because Frontier moved on to something newer and shinier, Planet Zoo. But what if I was to tell you that Planet Coaster 2 might not be what you think it is?
Shocking.
What if? And hear me out here. What if Planet Coaster 2 is actually a Planet Zoo DLC?
What?
Planet Coaster was designed throughout the mid-2010s and it finally hit us right in the face with an early access alpha at the beginning of 2016 and then a full release in November of that year. It was designed at the time when computer hardware was on the cusp of this new greatness, but it wasn't quite ready yet. Frontier had a really hard choice to make. Do they hold off for a few years and let this new technology become mainstream? Or do they release the game using new technology but limit the game's reach until that technology catches up? Or do they design the game using the outgoing technology and scale back some of the features that they had planned? And we know how that went. Planet Coaster was designed using DirectX 11 and it was released having many expected features rolled back or cancelled. Where was the weather? Where are these 100,000 guests that we were promised? Why were lower end machines struggling? And it ended up opening up all sorts of debates about whether Planet Coaster is badly optimized.
No.
Real quick side note, you see this everywhere, gaming bros all over the internet telling you the game's badly optimized.
Bruh.
No, it isn't. It's correctly optimized for the hardware that it was designed for.
Shut up.
Endless play tycoon games will always struggle when you add more and more and more into the world as you play. This has been a symptom for the genre ever since playing Theme Park and SimCity, and because it's designed for DirectX 11, the game really relies on single-core performance rather than multi-core threading, and the premise is simple. The higher the single-core speed, the better the game performs. So if you are running a potato over CPU that boosts to 3.6 gig, then yes, your experience is going to be trash. But that's probably a video for another time. Anyway, why is any of that relevant? Well, in 2019 along came Planet Zoo, the successor game in terms of the Planet universe. It's a game that's been designed from the ground up and the premise of the game is very similar to Planet Coaster. You take a plot of land, you fill it with some stuff, you make money from that stuff, and you fill it with more stuff, and then eventually you have an entire attraction. But something about Planet Zoo is different.
Really?
It looked good, it performed relatively well, it had weather.
Wow.
Why? How? Well, Planet Zoo was built using the Cobra 2 engine, the successor engine to the original Cobra.
Fancy.
It's designed with the latest DirectX and it enables hardware to really operate at its full potential. Planet Zoo didn't have the same argument about whether to delay because of emerging technology. It was already here. Since then, an entire raft of updates have been made to Planet Zoo, including the introduction of some familiar but not the same assets.
Copycat.
Spooky Pack, Adventure Pack, they all made their way into Planet Zoo. Hang on, Chacho, this is all a little bit waffly and you spent a few minutes talking to me about games that I already know exist. Can we just get to the title's topic, please? Alright, yeah, okay, so we're waiting with anticipation for the news on a potential Planet Coaster sequel. We've got many questions. What's it going to look like? How's it going to perform? What's going to be included? How will the game evolve? And what engine will it be created using? Well, there don't seem to be any new rumblings on any sort of new engines going on, and that suggests that it's probably going to be done with Cobra 2, it makes sense.
Smart.
Cities Skylines 2 is teaching us how a sequel to a 2015 game might or might not look visually, operationally, and conceptually. I mean, let's just swerve around the car crash that's the commercial bit for now, and just talk about Planet Coaster 2 and the successor. For Planet Coaster 2 to be a thing, you'd expect it to be a whole new ground-up game, right?
Wrong.
Let's just ignore the fact that we've got a couple of titles coming this year for a second and just question why we would bother to go to all of that effort if the perfect universe for it actually exists already. Planet Zoo shares a lot of stuff with Planet Coaster. The people, the building styles, the systems, it's all there already. So what if Planet Coaster 2 actually isn't a ground-up game after all, but a series of expansions or DLCs for Zoo? I mean, we've already got some of the ride systems in game, transport rides, and that means that there's lots of things that already exist in the game. Coding for the queues, the AI to make the rides desirable, the systems that work out profits, guest AI, facilities management, and most of all, the systems that make the game look and feel great, including weather. Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 had a series of expansions where you could have a theme park, a zoo, and a water park all in one. That's not news, we all know that. Planet Coaster never had that though, and Zoo kind of exists outside of that, but how do you bring them together? Well, you expand one of the base games, and you're not going to expand Coaster, it's based on old, obsolete technology. You kind of expand Zoo instead. Us players have said right from the very beginning that we want to merge animals and coasters. This is the perfect opportunity to do that. So is there actually any evidence of any of this? Well, yes and no.
Prove it.
Zoo is starting to run out of new features to add, but DLC sales are actually still quite strong. We're now seeing recycled building themes and new animals just to keep the thirst for the game going, but eventually the number of useful things will run out.
Lazy.
How do you continue to capitalise on a still popular game? Well, you expand it. Cities Skylines did it. Frontier are always hiring people for their Planet franchise, but here's the question. Why hire an entire new team for Zoo when there's no evidence to suggest that there's a coaster sequel is coming and Zoo is rapidly running out of steam? Frontier will want to turn a game around as quickly as possible given how much the landscape of their games has changed since 2020, and it's way quicker to throw rides into Zoo than build Planet Coaster 2 from the ground up. Now we do have to completely ignore the fact that Frontier have announced successive years of creative sim game releases, but they've never said that this is going to be new games. They have also touted the console release of Zoo as a new game announcement, so the doublespeak is strong in their marketing teams. So this begs the biggest question of them all. Am I open to the idea? Well, yeah, as it happens. Zoo itself isn't a bad game. I just don't play much of it because zoos don't overly interest me, but it plays well, it looks good, it shares many similarities with Coaster, and it's accessible to Coaster players. It makes perfect sense to keep expanding Zoo in the same way that Cities Skylines kept adding random stuff just to keep it going long enough for Cities Skylines 2 to come along. So I think I might just call it. Planet Coaster 2 won't be a new game, it will be a Zoo add-on. Oh, and I also know, by the way, I'm completely wrong on any of this, but it's just fashionable for any old creator just to shitpost any old theory based on the weakest of logic. I just thought, so many people are doing it, might as well get me some of that good stuff. At least I researched mine.